This is TWiT.
I mean, I don't normally see many things coming, in this regard, but I definitely didn't think about like a company like Square, which is a payments company, announcing a major stake investment in Tidal, which is a music streaming company. The combination there is a little baffling, and I think I'm not alone. Joining us to talk about this interesting deal is Alex Wilhelm from TechCrunch. Welcome back.
Hey! I suspected we might talk today, given this relatively interesting news item. My Twitter feed was alight this morning with people's different takes, and it's been a little bit of a thing to parse. But I'm glad you're here to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's always great to see you, Alex. Happy to get you on. So I suppose we'll start with the deal. Square CEO Jack Dorsey kind of tweeted out a lot of the details. He even specified in his tweet storm, that, okay, you may be asking yourself why, what the heck's going on here? What are the details that he laid out?
So up top, the deal is $297 million, if my memory serves. I think this is a mostly stock deal. There could be some cash in there, and it's for a majority stake. We don't know exactly how much, so it could be 50.01%, could be 75%. But the dollar amount is known. They had to kind of talk about that. They're a public company and so forth, so sharing more information is pretty common. And according to Billboard reporting, the individual artists that were kind of early Tidal partners are going to retain their ownership stake in the company. So they're going to keep kind of this broader list of shareholders who are in the music world inside the kind of Square ecosystem, I suppose. So cash and stock, a lot of money. Not sure about the actual final valuation of the company, but certainly now inside of Jack Dorsey's control.
Yeah, and that was kind of an interesting aspect of the Tidal story, is all of the artists that are also partners and own a stake in that. Why is it important that they get to retain their stake in Tidal? Is that about kind of reputation of Tidal as a service with the artists that are most passionate about it? What do you think that signals?
Well, when they brought the artists on to Tidal, the idea was to have some buy-in from the individual, musicians that kind of comprise the music that powers the world of streaming. And I don't know exactly how well that went, but Square with its Cash App could give them all kind of a larger platform. So my general thought, and this is all very nascent, so I could end up being entirely wrong, but if you're going to have tie-ups between the consumer side of Square and Tidal itself, you're going to want to have ambassadors. And so if you keep these artists that are very well-known figures and keep them with some ownership in the Tidal business, they may be much more inclined to take part in cross-promotion or just generally being available to make both brands seem cool. And I'm officially no longer one of the kids these days. Sadly, I have aged out of that category. But I do think that star power amongst musicians does retain quite a lot of sway. So if you're Jack, you want to keep those people around. And just to be clear, one thing I forgot to say up top is that Jay-Z is going to join Square's board. So they're not just bringing the service on and then hoping to kind of put it off in the corner and leave it be. They're trying to really listen to other people that may not have been as loud at the Square board level, which could make the company a bit more innovative as well.
Yeah, indeed. Jay-Z, like you said, part of the board. Also, Jay-Z, Tidal is not the only company that he owns. I think he bought it, in like 2015 or something like that, for a lot less than this majority stake. So he's doing all right. Just last month, he sold 50% of his ownership in his champagne company. Can't remember the name of it. I didn't write it down, but I don't know if I've ever drank it. I don't know if it's any good, but apparently he sold that due to what he had mentioned, pandemic forces, just saying pandemic's been really, really difficult on business. And, as an entrepreneur, you've got to do what you got to do. And so we're just kind of going with the flow. Do we know why he struck this deal right now? Is there any indication that's the same force applied to Tidal or something different?
I mean, I would be surprised if there wasn't some sort of similar thing at play there. But if you're surprised and you're listening to this, that Jay-Z is involved in so many different businesses, you should listen to more Jay-Z, because he said, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." And he's had, a lot of investments across the spectrum for some time now. The champagne company, of course, was a famous deal that I think happened after a different champagne company kind of said some racist stuff about Black Americans liking their product. And so they kind of those consumers left and then did other stuff. But, this deal would have made the same sense for Square, regardless of how well Jay-Z's other businesses were doing. But maybe on Mr. Carter's side, it did make more sense due to the overall damage that the music industry has seen with the lack of touring. And of course, the move to streaming has shaken up their revenues as well. So I think your intuition there, Jason, is quite on. But I don't think they're ever going to come out and say, wow, we were struggling, so we sold most of this to Square. But I would be shocked if that wasn't at least partially the case.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing for them to not explicitly admit in the midst of a deal. Is this a lifeboat for Tidal specifically? Like Tidal as a music streaming company has always kind of been, and then there's Tidal. They're never into that top rung of Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. They're always kind of like ... add Tidal. I don't know. Is Tidal happy with this? I mean, obviously you don't know that, but just given what we know about Tidal and its performance, is this a good deal for them?
Generally speaking, if I was going to be offered equity in one of two companies, either Tidal or Square, I'm going to go ahead and probably choose Square, given the company's amazing growth in the last couple of years and just the appreciation of its valuation as a public company. So, lifeboat is a strong phrase. I might say a creative partnership. Like this is going to be something that could be very good for Tidal. But here's the thing. If we had sat down, Jason, 2 years ago and said, will Tidal make it all the way to 2021? I bet we would have said, probably not. They're probably going to get crushed under the weight of Apple Music and Spotify. And at the same time, SoundCloud, a famously unprofitable bit of the music world, also still alive. These services seem to be kind of hard to kill, which is interesting to me. I wouldn't have guessed that was going to be the case. So I wouldn't say lifeboat. Tidal was still floating without this. But, if you're not going to be the biggest player in the market, having a very large sibling in the broader business community to leverage, to use capital from and so forth, could be great for them. And so for Tidal, I think this is nothing but a win. And it's for more money, as you mentioned, than I think we would have guessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Tidal was in a boat. Don't get me wrong. It's just they had one oar, so they were kind of going around in circles, and it was like, you know what, we want to go straight. The tiller
was broken. Yeah, the mast had a creak in it. So this is they got picked up by a yacht called Square, and they're going to be able to go a lot faster with more direction. Is how I think this looks like.
Yes, nailed it. All right, we found the perfect analogy. Okay, so you said this morning your Twitter was was lit up, on fire with people with opinions. Like how are people responding to this news? I have to imagine analysis on this is all over the place, just considering the two entities involved.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a complete mess, including from yours truly. I mean, when I first saw this, I had heard a rumor of this a little bit ago and had dismissed it as silly, probably Tidal trying to make some noise to get other people interested in them, whatever. And then it happened, and so my first reaction was, "Wait, what?" And I literally just tweeted out that because I had nothing else to add to the moment. And then I read Jack Dorsey's Twitter. What do you call them now? Tweet storm? Is that still the phrase of art?
Anyways, I don't know. That's what I used. It could be dated.
Thread?
I'll take it. Yeah, it's probably more of a thread now. Yeah.
I read Jack's thread, and I got to say, the deal has a lot of benefits possibly for Square. So here's the bullish take as far as I can make it. Square's worth $106 billion. So spending a couple of $100 million on Tidal is a fraction of a single % of the company's market cap. This was effectively free. Given that Square has appreciated so much in value in the last year, they're really just spending money that the market gave them. So there's not an enormous cost. You get Jay-Z on the board. Again, I think his perspective could be very, very good for the company. He's, not just a genius, but he's a kind of a creative visionary. And having that type of person on your board, my gosh, how could that be a net negative for a consumer-facing business to a large degree? And also, I was surprised at how big Cash App had become. I don't use Cash App. I'm more of a Venmo boy myself. But apparently, Cash App had 36 million monthly actives in December of last year. That's quite a lot. And so if you can think of some crossovers between Cash App, buying music, supporting artists, business models, there's probably enough of an overlapping circle there that you can make the case that for Square, this could be pretty positive. So, I was initially skeptical. I think everyone was as kind of a snap decision. But now, sitting back a little bit, with the price being what it is, with what they got for it, I'm very curious to see where they want to go. So I'm no longer negative. I think I'm neutral, Jason, but I'm curious. Are you positive, negative? How do you feel about this?
If I could quickly interject, just to go along, and then Jason, you should totally answer that because Alex, I just wanted to say, your experience was, it mirrored my experience perfectly. I first heard this and went, what? And then I looked at Jack's thread and read through what he was saying, and suddenly it made sense. The way that they talk about Tidal kind of fitting with the Cash brand, in the sense that, or the Square brand, in the sense that Square gave individuals the tools they needed to become a business and to start small businesses. That's the same thing that Tidal is doing with artists who want to become a business. And those kind of, the ethos there, I guess, kind of lined up, and suddenly it started to make sense to me. And I think that I'm even past neutral into nodding my head a little bit territory.
Okay.
And
no, I like that.
I can't help but throw in also, I mean, any relation to Beyonce is immediately going to help you in anything that I care about. So
I don't want to make the Bayhive mad. I'm not as big of a Beyonce fan as I'm supposed to be. But I will say that, Beyonce and Jay-Z are internationally famous megastars for a reason. It's because they're incredibly talented and have had their finger on the pulse of culture, and in fact have been, driving forces in, kind of cultural change for so long now. Why would you not want them to be around your consumer brand, right? It just makes, I get that. And for 0.2% of your market cap, that feels cheap. It feels inexpensive to me. But on a product level, I'm very curious to see what comes out of this. But you're right. Square did take small businesses and brought them into a more IRL digital economy. And I think we've seen Square also do similar work online, and we've seen an enormous push for general digitization amongst all companies. So why not bring the musical world, as best you can, into the Square world and see if there's a good union there? It's also fun. And when's the last time we got to talk about something fun? So totally. I also enjoyed that element of it. Right.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why it kind of stuck out for me, and why I reached out to you, because you are fun, especially when it comes to topics like this, kind of hashing through it. I'm actually pretty positive about this. I think I completely agree with what you both have just said. Jay-Z, Beyonce, the people behind this, I feel like they do have obviously they have their fingers on the pulse of the music industry. They're incredibly business savvy. And so I don't know that this would necessarily be a deal that they're just taking to like scramble and run or anything like that. There could be some really unique things that come out of this deal that that we just don't see or know what that looks like as a incredibly independent artist that makes next to zero money off of my music. If they end up doing some sort of partnership that enables musicians to make more of a market push for themselves, or have more of a presence or something along those lines, that could be really cool to kind of see, how maybe they redefine that space to a certain degree. So I'm curious to see from a product standpoint what they're able to turn this into.
One tiny thing about that, and then I want to talk about one other acquisition. But on the music front, I am almost annoyed with how little money I pay Spotify for the value that I get out of it. And so to me, there seems to be a dramatic imbalance between what I'm paying in, which is, I don't even know, 10, 15 bucks a month, whatever. And, listening to several hundred hours of music every month, I should be paying more. And I would love to have the ability to give more money to the artists that I really depend on the most. As a heavy metal fan, some of the bands that I really enjoy and really enrich my life are pretty small. And the streaming world doesn't really work that well. The economics aren't there for smaller bands. So if they can do stuff in that direction, I'll be a big fan. But if you guys think about Square as a company that makes deals, they did buy Caviar back in the day. And people were very perplexed by that. Why would Square get into the food delivery game? And eventually they sold that to DoorDash for like $400 million or whatever it was. But this is not their first foray into experimentation via acquisition. So there is some precedent for this. And, Square shareholders can't get that mad because it's just not that much money. They didn't spend $5 billion on this, right? A couple $100 million at their scale is just, I don't want to say pocket change because it's dismissive, but it's pocket change.
Yeah, totally. Great deal. And actually, as I was listening to you talking about this just now, I was reminded of the topic of the previous interview, NFTs, non-fungible, transaction tokens, non-fungible tokens. And wondering, and also Square's kind of investment in crypto, and all of these things kind of converging at once, and then that coupled with maybe an artist-driven, artist-empowering platform that Tidal could create in combination with all this stuff. then you have something that's really forward kind of future thinking from an artist perspective, from driving the music industry and giving maybe artists that don't have an insane following, like some of the heavy metal bands that you listen to, they're smaller followings, but they're really passionate, empowered fan base can actually support them in meaningful ways outside of the traditional, X amount of people streamed my music on Spotify and I got paid this number of pennies for it.
Yeah.
There could be something really exciting there.
So the NFT world is sufficiently nascent to me as well that I don't have a very strong perspective about what could come out of the union of crypto, music rights, and a transaction powerhouse like Square is across a number of categories. But if there is a center point of those three distinct circles, this is the only company that I can think of that is properly set up to leverage it. So if you do believe in that bull case, you're probably a big fan of the deal because Spotify doesn't own a lot of crypto assets. It doesn't have a consumer crypto business. Square does. Apple Music, I mean, can you imagine Apple being that forward looking? Please. So this is the company that might be able to pull it off. And I will stand this only if it supports the artists and not just the broader music industry, because people like the fine Jason Howell do deserve more remuneration for their fine guitar playing and singing than they currently get.
I will put the check in the mail, Alex. Thank you very much for saying that.
74 cents, ladies and gentlemen.